Azarov was the head of government under President Viktor Yanukovych, who was ousted in February 2014. The prime minister was closely involved in negotiating the terms of the association agreement with the EU. And after violent protests gripped Kiev, Azarov handed in his resignation to make way for what he called an alternative solution. He then left Ukraine and now lives in Russia, but he's wanted in Kiev on charges of embezzlement. Let's get more from our correspondent Maria Finoshna, who joins us live now. Hi there, Maria. So what other revelations did the former prime minister of Ukraine come forward with today in Moscow?
Well, Nikolai Azarov indeed presented his book. Here it is. It's called Ukraine at the Crossroads. Prime Minister's Notes, it's quite big, where he recalls what was going on before and during the troubled days of the Ukrainian revolution that pushed him, as well as then the president Viktor Yanukovych, away from power. Azarov accused the US of orchestrating the events known as Maidan, recalling how the US Assistant Secretary of State was pushing him to create so-called unity government at the time when, as he said, his cabinet was legitimate and there was any legal justification for any change in the country. While speaking about the controversial trade agreement with the EU, Azarov denied any pressure from the Russian leaders, at the same time accusing the ex-EU commissioner of pushing him to sign it, saying, Azarov says, if you don't sign it, the next government will do. Nikolai Azarov was very emotional while speaking about the current events in the eastern Ukraine, and he reminded journalists that 200 children have already been killed. He was almost crying while saying this. He also mentioned the tense standoff in the southern Ukrainian city of Odessa in May 2014, when over 40 people died after the trade union's building was set on fire. He was complaining that these, as well as other violent, bloody incidents, have never been investigated and those responsible have never been punished.
They
shot dead those caricature painters, and the whole world rose up. How about burning alive 100 people? Is this not an atrocity? Was it so hard to find their murderers? You have television, personnel, and everything else. The Odessa crime was completely documented. The killers documented themselves. Why is nobody in the dock?
Nikolai Azarov is now wanted in Kiev on charges of the alleged embezzlement, the claims he denies, and he's also in the international wanted list for power abuse and the alleged embezzlement as well. Back to you.
All right, Maria, thanks for bringing us this update. And be sure to check Maria Finoshna's Twitter page with all the latest details from Nikolai Azarov's news conference there. Maria says Ukraine's former prime minister believes authorities in Kiev are doing nothing to stop the bloody war in eastern Ukraine. This amid what he calls the catastrophic situation in the region, with many children bearing the brunt of the conflict.